to talk about emergency funds. I'm going to go over what an emergency fund really is, how much money you should save, and give you 9 compelling reasons why you need one. You know, all the good stuff. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button below and click the bell so you can be notified of any new videos that I'll post. And one last thing before I begin, I've included a free PDF for you to download. It is an emergency fund worksheet and tracker, and the link is in the description below. Okay, so let's get started. But first, let me ask you, have you ever had an expense that you could not pay for? Like maybe someone fell and broke their arm, and you did not have enough money for the medical bills. Or maybe your refrigerator needed to be repaired, and you did not have the money to pay for the repair. And yes, since both of those things were emergencies and needed to be paid, and since you didn't have the cash, you just whipped out your card and put it on the credit card. Because life happens, right? Someone gets sick, the car breaks down or needs new tires, your roof leaks, your washer finally bit the dust, your hours at work get cut. You get the picture. So what happens when one of those things happen? How are you going to pay the bill? Do you have a plan in place? Or are you just going to grab your credit card, pay the bill, and then just pay the monthly minimums, which then accrues all of that interest? Are you going to borrow from a friend or your parents? So let me ask you this. Have you ever lost your job? Or has your spouse lost their job? What did you do? Did you panic because you did not have the money to pay your bills? Not enough money to feed your family? Not enough money to keep your house? If any of these things or similar has happened to you, then you already know the benefits of having an emergency fund. An emergency fund is money that you set aside for emergencies. I know. Silly, right? But it's cash, so you don't have to whip out the credit card and then have another payment. Yep, as simple as that. An emergency fund is money that you set aside for all of those just-in-case scenarios. It is money that you set aside so you do not have to add to your debt. And I am on a personal mission to help everyone live a debt-free life. It is money that you set aside so when those unexpected expenses happen, and they definitely will, you don't immediately go into stress mode. You can step back and say, I got the cash for this, which in my humble opinion is one of the most best feelings in the entire world. Now, there are different types of emergency funds. There are the medical emergency ones. There are the home repair ones. And there are the ones that you use when you lose your job or get sick and can't work. So how do you even begin? Well, first off, save $1,000. Why $1,000? Because you got to start somewhere, right? $1,000 will cover most of those little unexpected emergencies like new tires, new battery, refrigerator repairs, or medical testing. But make sure you set it aside in a cash envelope, savings account, or other area that won't get touched for other things. Now, are you wondering how to even begin to save $1,000 when you're stretched so thin right now? I have a great post called 40 Ways to Save Money Now, and I'll link it below. Check it out and grab some ideas. You will definitely find a few things that you can use to save that cash. Second, then you need to save 9 to 12 months of living expenses, 1 month at a time. For what if you lost your job? Or if you're living on 2 incomes, what if your spouse or partner lost their job? Again, how would you pay the bills? You need to set aside enough cash to live on for 9 to 12 months, and this will save you from going into more debt and gives you or your spouse ample time to find a new job. So I bet right now you're thinking, 9 to 12 months? Oh my gosh, Jane, that's ridiculous. Okay, well, let's talk about how much money do you really need? How big should your emergency fund be? Well, what if, and stay with me here, you had saved money? Save money for those emergencies in life. What if you had the cash to pay the bill, pay the rent or the mortgage, buy food for your family, make the repair without thinking twice, not put the charge on your credit card? How would that make you feel? Would that take the pressure off of, well, everything? Now, I'm a big advocate for an emergency fund. It is, in fact, one of the financial pillars that you will erect in my Financial Independence Society course and program. An emergency fund can keep your financial house from falling apart. But first, what is considered an emergency? Like a real emergency? Well, your car repair, a medical bill, a home repair that can't wait, an appliance repair, paying your rent or mortgage, buying food for yourself and for your family. So those are real emergencies. So let's go into what an emergency fund is not. A flat screen TV on sale, manicure, pedicure, or hair color, new clothes or shoes unless your baby's outgrown them, a vacation, home renovation, fancy food and snacks, kids' activities. Every single channel on your DirecTV package, eating out, country club dues. Basically, an emergency fund is only to be used for essentials. Anything you can live without is not an emergency. So how do you calculate how much money do you need? Well, it's simple math. Make a list of your mandatory or fixed expenses, your rent, your mortgage, utilities, insurance premiums, medical co-pays, debt, loans, credit card payments, etc. Put that on one list. And then make another list of your discretionary expenses, your food, your pet care, your car gas, and your transportation expenses. Basically, anything that you can live without is not included. And when I say discretionary expenses, what I really mean is the amounts can vary every single month. So you can set aside a set amount of money for food every single month. So that would be fixed. But your utilities change every month. So that would be discretionary. Okay, I just wanted to clear that up. So if you can live without it, it's not an emergency. A literal live without. Next, you're going to assign a dollar amount to each one of those items, both columns, both lists. And then you're going to add them up, and this is what you need each month in case of an emergency. So you're first going to start with 1 month. So you're going to multiply that amount by 3 months. That is what you need to save if you need to pay your bills for 3 months. Once you get to your 3 months, tack on 3 more. With what's happening in the world today, 12 months when you have limited or no income could be a high probability. And yes, in order to save for emergency fund, you need to cut back on today's spending. Let me ask you, is it worth it? I am 100% positive it is, because ask anyone who has lost their job, how would an emergency fund have saved them from all the stress and trauma of not being able to pay their bills? Now, as a budget counselor, I am passionate about budgets and becoming debt-free so that you can live your best life, your debt-free life. And I have so many posts relating to money. Check them all out at positivelykjane.net, and I'll link that down below as well. And last, here are those 9 compelling reasons why you need an emergency fund. I'm going to talk about items that are not considered mandatory, but emergencies in general. Number 1, trying to pay off debt. If you're trying to pay off your debt, an emergency fund will help you stop adding to that debt. There are always financial bumps and humps along the way. Your emergency fund is there to help you get over those bumps without incurring any more debt. Make sure that you include adding to your emergency fund when setting up your budget. Number 2, you own a home. Now, owning a home is great, but with all that awesomeness, it comes expenses. You need a new roof. Your refrigerator needs to be repaired. Your lawnmower quit. All of those things require money. And since the goal is to not incur any more debt, you need an emergency fund to cover those expenses. That will happen. Number 3, bigger than expected tax bill. Uncle Sam wants his share too, and sometimes you're under withheld in your taxes. An emergency fund will ensure you have the money to pay that tax bill and not incur interest too. Number 4, emergency surgery. Even with the best insurance, there are always medical bills when you or a family member becomes sick or injured. Having a fund on hand to cover the out-of-pocket expenses will really make things easier for you. Medical co-pays can be steep, most times in the thousands, and that is only if you have insurance. Number 5, pregnancy. Babies are so cute, but they can be expensive. And with all of those sudden expenses, you can rest assured that you have an emergency fund to pay for those bills. Number 6, you lose your job or your hours are cut. What happens if you lose your job or your hours are cut? How are you going to pay those bills? Feed your family. When you have an emergency fund, you know that all of those expenses are covered. Number 7, a death in the family. The passing of a loved one is so hard, but it's even harder when you don't have the money for a funeral. Save for that rainy day so you can bury or cremate your loved one properly. Number 8, natural disasters. A natural disaster can happen at any time. And with those disasters come loss of jobs, houses, cars, food, and everything else. How will you get your life back on track? With an emergency fund, you can get there at a much quicker rate. Number 9, car repairs. Cars need repairs, oil changes, new tires, transmission repairs. Save money so that you can do all of that maintenance and repairs that are needed. This will ensure that your car lasts much longer, which saves you from buying another one soon. And there you have it. An emergency fund is one of those musts in your financial life. Start now, work your way towards your 9 or 12-month goal. I guarantee that the final stress will be totally lifted off your shoulders. Any questions? Drop them in the comments below. Thank you so very much, and I'll see you in my next video.